So this is going to be a dodgeball strategy video. Now, most of the time, dodgeball strategy tends to look a bit something like this. The game can be pretty chaotic, and that's definitely part of its charm, but as the game has become more competitive, it's also evolved past the point of random free-for-alls. So when people start playing dodgeball, what they do is they pick up a ball, they charge towards the center line, and they whip that ball at the person they want to hit out. But the first thing every team learns if they stick around for a bit is that if throwing one ball at a person was good, then throwing a whole bunch of balls at that person together as a group is even better. It's harder to dodge multiple balls, and it's hard to catch a ball if there's a whole bunch coming at you. So that's basic level 1 dodgeball strategy. That's the first thing every team puts in their game, is the group throw. And the other levels of dodgeball strategy that we're about to get into are all about either diminishing the power of your opponent's group throw or protecting the power of your group throw from your opponent's attempts to mess with it. So now we've got some teammates for the blue player who's being targeted. And what's going to happen here is that when the red team makes their group throw, there's going to be a point in time at which they become vulnerable. When their players are in the top of the arc of their throw or at the point of release, all their momentum is going to be forward, they're going to be tied into that throwing motion, and they're not going to be able to move or react to anything that the blue team does very well. And this is going to give the blue team an opportunity to punish the group throw. So one thing the blue team can do is run a counter rush. If one of their players at the back of the court has a ball, they can start charging towards the line the moment that the red team commits to their group throw, and hopefully what will happen is that the blue team will be able to throw at one of the red players point blank and have a very good chance at hitting one of them out and getting some retribution for the group throw. Another thing the blue team can do is they can take one of their balls and throw at the red team in the middle of the group throw. Now, if the blue player throws a bit early, what will usually happen is the red player will block or dodge or do whatever they need to be safe, and then the red team will recuperate, choose their target again, and do the group throw anyways. But if the blue player is skilled, what they can do is time their throw such that it occurs during the red team's point of no return, where they're all really close to their point of release and the group throw is just going to happen. And the red player who gets thrown at by this blue player has a couple choices. They can either commit to their follow through, in which there's a good chance that the blue player, if they're on target, will hit them out because it's really hard to throw and dodge at the same time, or they can stop their participation in the group throw and they can play defense and be safe. But if that happens, the blue team has still taken out one of the throws and made this 3-on-1 situation a 2-on-1, which is a lot better for the player who's the target. They can catch a lot easier, dodge a lot easier, and they're a lot more likely to survive. The third thing that can happen here is that the red team can always just screw it up. This is something that can happen a lot. A lot of players aren't great at throwing under pressure, and so when they see someone winding up and they're not sure who's getting thrown at, one or two or three players in that red group throw can flinch, they can miss the target, they can abort their group throw and leave just one or two of their teammates left to throw. And what could be a really tough 4-on-1 situation can kind of turn into a half-hearted 2-on-1 group throw that's just a lot easier for the blue team to deal with. So that's level 2. Those are the ways of sort of taking some of the sting out of the group throw, the counter rush and the interrupter throw. So the level 3 strategy is, if your opponents are trying to mess with your group throws, how do you stop them? So the one thing you can do is, rather than throw all your balls at your intended target, you can hold one of those balls back and use that to protect the line against a player who's doing a counter rush or somebody who might run up to get a ball halfway up the court. As the amount of players you have group throwing gets more and more, this kind of becomes a better and better idea. You generally tend to get diminishing returns on your group throw. Having 3 players throw is generally a fair bit better than 2. Having 4 players throw is a little bit better than 3. Having 5 players throw usually isn't that much better than 4. So having one of your players hold back if you have a whole bunch of balls can go a long ways towards protecting your team in the aftermath of the group throw. If things are playing a bit more fast and hectic and the opposing team gets a counter rush in anyways, one of the things you can do, of course, is play the counter rush, where a player on the blue team runs up to do their counter rush after the group throw, and you're in the back of the court and there's a ball nearby, you can pick up that ball and charge at them, and if they hit your player out, you can just go up to the line and dunk right back on them and at least get a good trade. Now, if you're worried that the other team is going to throw a ball at you in the middle of your group throw and try and mess you up, one thing you can do is try and pin them down by assigning one of your players to throw at them slightly before your own group throw occurs, so that they're forced to dodge or block while the rest of your teammates are throwing. This is pretty hard to time well and generally not terribly effective, and has the obvious cost of you will have to remove one of your players from your group throw ahead of time. But if you do have 4 or 5 players with a ball, this can definitely have some merit. And if you just have a team that's maybe a little bit newer and tends to panic and fall apart if they see somebody throwing at them in the middle of their group throw, having the confidence of knowing that somebody is pinning them down and they're going to be preoccupied can be worthwhile to make sure you get that quality group throw off. And of course, the best way of preventing defense is to set up all your group throws before the opposing team can mount a defense. If you can get to the line and get organized and throw at the person you want to hit out before the other team can take possession of balls with which to react, then there is no defense. And that's why some of the best teams are the quickest to organize and pull off their group throws and realize the full potential of their group throwing power without having it eroded by these defensive plays. Now, one of the slightly funny consequences of this is that if the other team is close to setting up their defense and one of the red players is ahead of the play, it may actually be a better play for them to throw without their teammates, just charging to the line and throwing as hard as they can so that they can throw before the other team sets up a defense. And in a way, this kind of looks like we've come full circle. We have people charging on the line, whipping the ball at who they want to hit out, and basically declining the team throw in favor of getting a throw that has no defense set against it. And so, in some ways, watching some high-level dodgeball games, it can appear as if it's low-level dodgeball play that's just chaotic and random, but generally what the good players are realizing is that, hey, I've got a situation here where I can throw with no pressure, do exactly what I want, but if I wait for my teammates to get to the line with me and do a group throw, the opposing team is already going to have 1 or 2 or 3 balls set up for a defense. And I actually just want to take the clean play, and sometimes that's the right decision. So that's the level 3 strategy, the reactions to the reactions. One thing you could do is you can hold a ball out of your group throw to prevent the other team from counter-rushing you. This is especially effective if there's balls in the mid-court that they need to pick up. The other thing you can do is you can have somebody run out of the backcourt to do a counter-counter, where they try and counter-rush the person who is counter-rushing and punish them. You can do a pin throw, where you try and throw one of your balls at a player who's trying to mess with your group throw to immobilize them and keep them from doing anything and let your teammates throw safely. And of course there is the beat the defense option, where you just set up as quickly as possible and make your group throw before the opposing team can even try and do anything about it, which tends to be the most reliable and effective option. So that was my dodgeball strategy video, and I hope you guys get out there and enjoy some dodgeball.